And we have one special guest on the line right now with us. He is the voice of the Washington Wizards, Mr. Justin Kutcher. What's up, Justin?
What's going on? How are you?
We are good, man. It's been crazy, man. It's been really, really crazy. How are you and your family right now going? With this COVID-19 situation.
So far so good, thankfully. I'm separated from all my siblings and their kids and my parents, but we keep in very close contact, and so far everyone's good. But you are wrong on one thing. I'd love to hear you guys sing some U2.
You really want us to sing U2? Well, I'll tell you, Justin.
No,
Justin, every single Thursday we sing. He sings a particular song. My producer, he sings. What do you sing?
Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears.
Okay.
And then Errol sings Mr. Biggs to Be With You at the end of the show. That's our tradition.
Today I'm lucky enough in Charlotte, North Carolina to be able to play golf. The golf course is still open. And I want to sing Bloody Sunday because it was a terrible day on the course.
I love U2. I was just telling the fans, at the age of 13, that was my first concert at Giant Stadium to go and watch U2. I was 13 years old. I had great seats. Awesome. It was one of the best concerts I've ever been at. But Speedy, go ahead.
So, Justin, before we actually get to the Wizards, I actually want to ask this question. This fascinated me when I looked at your Twitter bio when I was messaging you to get you on the show. So your Twitter bio says you broadcasted a game in all of the 48 continental U.S. states, obviously besides Alaska and Hawaii. So I just want you to talk about some of those experiences. Like, what did that compile of? Was there any unique sports involved? Was it a lot of D2, D3 college sports? Was it minor league baseball? Was it some like crazy sports that nobody knows? Like, explain some of those experiences and maybe those states that we didn't realize that you could broadcast in.
So honestly, minor league baseball helped me knock off a bunch, especially like the Dakotas, Iowa, Nebraska, all that kind of stuff. And for some reason, all of a sudden I began thinking about, wait a minute, I've been to the last state that I had to hit in the continental U.S. was Montana. And I can remember when I was working at ESPN, I actually specifically asked, I'm like, hey, if there is a FCS playoff game in Montana, can I have it? And the year that I asked for it, I didn't get it. And I was bummed. The next year, I did get it. And I'm like, boom, they're all gone. I've got all 48. And I'm like, all right, now I got to get Alaska and Hawaii. And I tried to make a pitch that the Diamond Head Classic was right over Christmas time. And I said, I'm Jewish. I have no problem working over Christmas. If you want to send me to Hawaii, we're good. That didn't work out. Instead, it ended up working out okay. I got to call the Bulls and the Knicks at Madison Square Garden.
Oh, that's fun. That's a fun game to watch. That's a fun game to watch.
And that was when Derrick Rose was, I think, a second-year player, so it was pretty sweet. But minor league baseball is where I got a lot of the states, I guess, and then doing all my college sports over the years. Before you know it, you're hitting all the West Coast. I guess Wyoming. I had a women's basketball game at Wyoming. I told you the FCS football game in Montana. My first time in Arkansas was a Division II basketball game in Searcy, Arkansas. And the night before the game, they had this huge pep rally at the basketball arena, and they called me out to speak to the people, and it was pretty funny. But all my experiences, I'm pretty lucky.
We are talking to the voice of the Washington Wizards, Mr. Justin Kutcher. Well, let's get to Washington basketball because it seems like they're the laughing stock. Well, they're not the laughing stock. The Knicks are the laughing stock of basketball. But besides that, the Washington Wizards have been a laughing stock really in the NBA for the last couple of years. And Bradley Beal, their number one player, their best player by far right now. And I don't want to hear about John Wall and what John Wall has done. He's done absolutely nothing for the Washington Wizards. But Bradley Beal has been a great player for the Washington Wizards for the last couple of years. And now they're talking about trading him. What is this? Why is these stories coming out that they want to trade their best player?
I think those stories are people just talking. I don't think that's actually true. I think what happens is, A, he could not be traded during the season. So everyone who was talking about like, hey, like Brad, is he going to be dealt? Is he not going to be dealt? He couldn't be dealt. He signed the contract extension last offseason, which prohibited him from actually being traded during the season. So that was one thing. And then now for what's going on for the Wizards, I'll say this. You may say to the laughing stock, and I went in with low expectations. I believe the over-under on wins was like 28 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And I told people, take the over. And when I saw them just even before camp, and then I saw them in training camp, I said, take the over. There's something different about this team. There's a camaraderie about them. I like them. And they didn't have a lot of superstars. As you mentioned, Beal's the best player by far, no doubt about it. But the sum of the parts was greater than the individual parts. And this was a team that people learned as the season went on. You really can't take them lightly because they're dangerous. They can score with anybody. The problem was their defense. As soon as they traded away Isaiah Thomas, the defense got a lot better. And, I'm still hopeful that we get a chance to play, 10, 18 games. That's how many games we have remaining in the season, and to see what we can do in those final games, because I do believe that this team, every game they get right now with this young group helps them for next year. And with John coming back next year, I expect them to be a playoff team. I would say seeded 3 through 5 in the East. And you know what? It'll be very interesting to see who the best player on the team is, if it's Wall or Beal. Because if Wall comes back the way he's been playing, and he has said to me, it's the first time that I can remember I'm healthy, then it's going to be a really, really fun team to watch.
Justin, at the break, the Wizards were 24-40, and they were the first team out in the playoffs in the East.
Mm-hmm.
And they also actually improved a lot when it comes to depth, because a lot of people were saying for a while it was just Beal and Wall, and who were those other pieces to go with. Now they have 8 different guys now this year with double-digit points per game. Davis Bertans has been a nice piece. You got rookie Rui Hachimura playing very well, and a lot of random guys that they're just piecing it together. Who do you give credit to for that, for one thing? And also, do you think if John Wall was healthy, how many games does that make up in the standings, do you think? Are they in a playoff spot? Are they in a playoff spot below 500? Are they in a playoff spot maybe with the Sixers, like where they are? Where do you think they would be with Wall there, assuming these factors are the same?
I can't speculate where they would be with Wall. That's too hard to do, right? We knew going into the season John was not coming back this year. He was going to rehab, and that was that. But who do I give credit to as far as the depth of this team? It has to be Tommy Shepard. And then you take what Tommy Shepard has done in his first year as a full-time general manager, and it's been awesome. And then you got to give Scott Brooks a lot of credit because, we had Bradley Beal out. We had Davis Bertans out, Mo Wagner, Thomas Bryant. You name them, Rui Hachimura, they were all out. And yet the team was still winning, or they were in games. And we beat Miami, Boston, Denver, all without Bradley Beal. That's remarkable. And they were doing it because you had other guys stepping up. Again, I said it was the sum of the parts was greater than the individual parts. And what this team had was great depth. And they could go a legit 10, 11 deep in a game. And I know that might not be the formula for success in the playoffs, but throughout the season, that second unit was huge for this team. And I give these guys credit. They're young, they're hungry. I think when we opened camp, we had 8 guys who were 22 years or younger.
It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's so they've been hungry and they're fun and there's really not ego. Like I noticed it really early on. Guys were coming up to me. Here I am. I'm the new guy. I go to all the practices and I wasn't going, out of my way to introduce myself. I just wanted to be there. And this way they can say like, hey, who's that guy? Who's that guy? And eventually warm up to me. And these guys have been awesome. And it's hard not to cheer for them. I'll be honest. My parents get the NBA package, and my parents watch every game. And my dad, who's going to be 71 in a month, he said, I cannot believe at 71 years old, I now have like fallen in love with a team that I never cared about. And
It's
and
you.
it's just so cool.
It's you.
It's awesome. Well, I mean, no, but like my mom, I mean, Jan Mahinmi, who, to Wizards fans has been a big disappointment.
Right.
And this year he came back. He was still hurt, but he came back when the team needed him. And he played really pretty well. And my mom loved Jan Mahinmi. And I'll never forget one day I called home, and the next day we were talking about the previous night's game, and my dad says something about Mahinmi, and mom goes, yeah, but he didn't play very well last night. And I thought it was awesome.
We are talking to the voice of the Washington Wizards, Justin Kutcher. Justin, Scott Brooks, he's the coach of the team. A lot of people thought that Scott Brooks was coming here to the Washington Wizards because he was going to draw free agents like Kevin Durant, who became a free agent last year. I know there were stories coming out of Washington the last couple of years that when he becomes a free agent, that could be a landing spot. Washington was going to be a landing spot for Kevin Durant because he's from Washington. What were your thoughts when he decided to go to the Brooklyn Nets?
I never for once thought he was going to the Wizards, especially this go around. It never even crossed my mind. And granted, I mean, prior to being hired by the Wizards, it wasn't, on my radar, but I never ever thought it was going to be, he was going to leave Golden State and say, I'm going back home to DC. I didn't see it happening. And not just that, I think it would have been really tough cap space wise to make it happen. So to me, I mean, Durant going to Brooklyn, I think the bigger thing was that Durant didn't go to the New York Knicks, and people thought that's where he was going to go. And I think as long as James Dolan is the owner of the Knicks, they're not going to be able to attract those big time free agents. It's not the marquee franchise, despite what Forbes has them ranked as, in players' eyes. So I'm not surprised he never went to the Knicks. Choosing Brooklyn to team up with Kyrie Irving, I think it's a good fit because I don't think Kyrie wants to be the guy. I think Kyrie wants to be, Robin to Batman. And we know Durant can be Batman.